We almost never spoke to them, though they always tried to strike conversation. They were amicable. Polite, you know. They would ask us questions about our interests or how our day was. At least at first. Their soft voices would ooze out from the kitchen sink and the shower drain. Places like that. Sometimes, they would follow us, my sister and I, around the house. They would slither through the pipes like snakes to whisper in our ears. They weren't always there. Dad brought them home sometime after Mom passed. She was on her bike ride home from work when she was struck by a drunk driver. Fucker was going 80 miles per hour in a school zone. The police found several empty bottles of barefoot wine in his Volkswagen Bug. I was 15 at the time, and my sister was 17. Mom was amazing. Dad didn't adapt well to life without her. None of us did, but he was completely despondent for every bit of 2 years. All day, every day, he would sit expressionless. If it weren't for sleeping and drinking, I doubt he'd have done anything at all. It pissed me off that my father would turn to the same vice that caused the accident. I never told him that. One day, Dad danced in through the front door like nothing had ever happened. He wouldn't tell us why he was so happy, not at first, which was frankly a little frightening. We worried that he had found something new to live for. Something that we might not fit into. We were relieved to learn that he would not be abandoning us. He said he'd invited some special guests over to stay for a while. We probably should have been more concerned, especially when these guests never seemed to arrive, but we were just scared kids. We just wanted him back. Dad had been his usual happy self for another 2 years before Olivia came tearing out of the bathroom, screaming about hearing voices. She ran into the kitchen and breathlessly told us that she had been brushing her teeth when she heard a group of people speaking to her from the sink. Dad's smile faltered at that. He assured us that it was nothing, that Olivia had just imagined it. He took her temperature, and the thermometer read 101.3 degrees Fahrenheit. He didn't realize that we had heard the hair dryer running the whole time that he had been searching for the thermometer. As he sent us off to bed, he plastered on what he must have thought was a reassuring grin, but it was too late. I had seen the look in his eyes when his face fell. It was a look that said, "Oh, shit." I sat in the bathroom for a while that night, doing my best to be absolutely silent. I thought that they wouldn't talk if they knew I was there, but I had it all backwards. It wasn't until I knocked a bottle of soap onto the floor that they spoke up. "Oh, hello. You must be Matthew. It's lovely to meet you. We're Dash," whatever the next words were. I couldn't hear them over the sound of my own screaming. I ran as fast as I could to my bedroom and hid under the covers all night. We asked our father about them the next morning. He wouldn't talk about it until I told him my experience to affirm Olivia's story. He said those voices in the pipes belonged to his other wife and his other children. He said it in the same way that somebody says that grass is green. As if we should intrinsically understand the bizarre bullshit he was spewing. Beyond that, he would only tell us that they are important to him and that he loves them every bit as much as he loves us. We heard him screaming in the bathroom that night. I tried to ask what was wrong, but he just yelled at me to go to bed. I cried myself to sleep. I think we both did, but I couldn't bring myself to ask Olivia, my sister, about it. Things changed after Olivia and I became aware of our father's other family. Dad started to seem less happy with his other family, and more just plain obsessed with them. We were losing him. Again, watching him slip away from us made a certain amount of sense the first time. We lost our mom, and he lost his wife. That crushing despair and sudden loneliness could defeat anybody. I never blamed him for it the first time, but the second? I still don't think I've forgiven him for what those days were like. He would lock himself in the bathroom for hours and spend time with his second family. Our dinners started to shrink while the amount of pureed meat he poured down the drain grew. It didn't take us long to recognize that we were no longer the priority. And it didn't take long after that for resentment to sprout within our hearts. They started to mess with us more often. One day, they called me a litany of slurs and told me to jump off a bridge. The next, they read out every word of Olivia's diary. At least, that's what I assumed based on how long it took for them to stop. I didn't want to help them intrude on her private life, so I went outside. I stopped showering after my father's other wife made a pass at me from the shower drain. Small things started to go missing from the bathrooms and the kitchen area. Toothbrushes, lotion, chess pie, and several apples. I could go on. We tried to confront Dad, once. Olivia and I screamed at the bathroom door as we pounded with both fists. He gently opened the door and spoke to us in a whisper, "You guys need to get out of here." And then, louder, "You are interrupting family story time, and it is frankly very rude." So that's what we did. We left the house for a little while, sleeping in the car and feeding ourselves with the cash we had swiped from Dad's dresser. We came back after a couple of days. I'm still not sure if we were just going back to get more cash or if we were willing to try again with Dad. We never got the opportunity for the latter. The house appeared to have been ransacked. Every edible morsel had disappeared, presumably, down the drain. We found our father slumped over the bathroom sink with a knife in his hand. His skin was gray, and his eyes looked glassy. Like a doll's eyes. Chunks of flesh had been hacked out of him. A bloody scrap of his thigh, still clutched in his fingertips, lay dangling over the drain. As Olivia and I stood in horror, we watched a long, slender appendage like a butterfly's proboscis rise from the drain and yank the ragged piece of flesh out of our father's cold, dead hand. It didn't hurt as much as it should have, which hurts in its own way. I think I must have gotten used to the idea of losing him, or maybe I just hated him enough in that moment to pretend I had. I numbly dialed 911, and after explaining the situation, I took one last glance at my father's corpse. I wanted to cry, but the tears never came. I tried to tell the cops what had happened when they came to collect what was left of Dad. They just threatened to have me committed if I kept making shit up. Olivia didn't bother trying to explain. We were both asked a lot of questions. The cops put us under orders not to leave town, as we were suspects in our father's murder. I was devastated when I heard that news. The only thing I wanted to do was put as much distance between me and what used to be my home as possible. Olivia's barely contained sobbing told me that she felt the same way. The state was not comfortable with leaving two minors unattended, so my Aunt Gertrude came down to stay with us. To her credit, she tried really hard to understand. There was no real way for us to explain to her why we weren't brushing our teeth or bathing as much as we should have been. My father's other family didn't seem to want Gertrude to know about them. The few times we tried to show our aunt the second family her brother had adopted, they went silent. In hindsight, it's obvious what they were doing. They wanted us to feel isolated so that we would talk to them. Then they could manipulate us the same way they had done to Dad. They spoke in his voice sometimes. The rich timbre gently vibrating the pipes on its way to do the same to our eardrums. He said he was happy. He said we could join him and his second family in the pipes. I've always told myself that there was nothing of my father in the thing abusing his voice, but to tell you the truth, I'm not sure I cared if there was. We weren't going to take it anymore, did you get it? Olivia asked after school one day. I had been playing hooky and buying supplies, 5 bottles of Drano, styrofoam, and gasoline, just like you said. I felt proud of myself for getting exactly what she had requested. What's it for, napalm? Came her reluctant reply, and the meek way she said it told me that she knew it was absurd. I argued how insane her plan was the whole way home. In the end, she relented, and we agreed it would be an absolute last-case measure. 5 bottles of Drano later, and our father's other family had only reacted with groans of mild discomfort. Like how you might sound if you got splashed with water on a cold day. I was desperately trying to brainstorm other ideas when they stopped groaning and spoke again. You're wasting your time. It's better down here. It was our mother's voice. I'm not going to lie to you. We kind of lost our shit after that. Not with fear, but with anger at the audacity of this thing. It had taken our father, and now it was soiling the memory of our mother. We screamed ourselves hoarse and brought bedlam down upon the bathroom. We broke pretty much everything. We threw anything that wasn't nailed down at the sink in blind rage. After that, I collapsed against the wall, crying in a way that I hadn't since Mom had her accident. Olivia stood, shoulders shaking, in the doorway looking as if she were waiting for permission. "Olivia," I said. "Get the styrofoam." 20 minutes later, we had the napalm ready to go. One big bucket of "fuck you" for our response to our father's other family. As we carefully poured the gelatinous material into various drains, it muffled their voices, and our home fell truly silent for the first time in what felt like forever. We sat together and enjoyed that for a few minutes. Then we pulled a flare we had found in an old survivalist's kit from the garage, lit it, and threw it into the small puddle of makeshift napalm left in the basin of the sink. We figured it might take some time to burn its way down into the pipes, but we underestimated how hot it would be in the meantime. Roughly 5 minutes past ignition, Aunt Gertrude, home early from work, burst in demanding to know what that horrible smell was. She had just enough time to process the wrecked, partially burning bathroom before she found out exactly what that horrible smell was. The pipes under the sink melted away, and a gout of steam flung flaming napalm across the room, directly into the face of our aunt. Everything she tried to do just made it worse. Wiping her face with her hands just set her hands on fire. Wiping her hands on a towel just set the towel on fire, which set the house on fire. Olivia and I fled the bathroom as our aunt became a careening ball of flame, screaming her way from wall to wall. We could see from the hallway that the napalm in the deeper sections of pipe had not yet lit. As much as I wanted to make sure the job got done, we had to leave. The whole house was going to be burning down soon. We tried to exit through the kitchen, but when we rounded the corner, we saw hundreds of their wet appendages rising out of the drain, thrashing wildly in search of us. They spanned the whole room, stretching and retracting, flinging furniture around and yanking whatever they could get hold of down into the pipes. The situation in each of our bedrooms was exactly the same as in the kitchen. I'm still not sure if they had been following us again or if there were just that many of them. The bathroom in Olivia's bedroom was significantly closer to the door than my own, so when we opened her bedroom door, we found ourselves within their reach. The fire behind us had spread significantly, cutting us off from any chance of escape. The door began to shake as our father's other family tried to work their tubular appendages around the doorknob. The door opened slowly, and we could only watch as the slender limbs approached us. They lashed out with all the skill and speed of a snapping turtle, missing their mark by mere millimeters. It wasn't until this moment that we got a good look at their proboscises. They were tongues, black as soot and stretched beyond recognition. I thought it was over for us until our pursuers were intercepted by something that had come flailing down the flaming hallway. It was Aunt Gertrude, still fully aflame and still fully panicking. Their black tongues yanked in unison, pulling Aunt Gertrude across the room and down the drain with a sickening series of cracks, pops, and squelches all taking place in the same half-second. Her body contorted wildly as she was pulled down the drain, bone by bone. Moments after they had taken her down, their screams began. Aunt Gertrude's still flaming corpse had ignited the napalm that had melted down into the pipes. They must have screamed with every voice they'd ever heard, including mine and Olivia's. There was no time to mourn our aunt or to relish in the agony of the beasts. Now that the rest of the napalm had ignited, the fire in the house was growing exponentially. We ran through Olivia's now empty bedroom and jumped out of the window. The house burned to the ground. We didn't stick around to make absolutely sure they were dead, but we saw the thin shadows of their flailing appendages dancing on the burning curtains. That was enough for us to feel satisfied in washing our hands of it all. Olivia and I got in our father's 1993 Ford Bronco, and we left. We abandoned our old lives and identities entirely. We were already murder suspects. We were not about to beat arson charges, not to mention the accidental murder of Aunt Gertrude. So we just drove away without any idea of where we were headed. Anywhere had to be better than what used to be home.